Hello everyone, welcome. The following video is an experience, a shoot I did outside, trying some equipment I hadn't used before, and I know immediately when I saw it, a lot of flaws, a lot of mistakes. I'm still learning, but please let me know. Please, it's not a long video. Watch it till the end and let me know. Your opinion is very important to me. If you want to destroy it with your criticism, please be my guest. I thank you if you do. Thank you very much. To the video now.
Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm doing a slightly different video. Suffice to say that it's inspired in many other YouTubers, being the most noticeable, as I'm a big fan of, by the way, Alex Cristoforo. And for example, Mike Jones used to do this kind of videos as well. Now Anya is doing them as well, and I thought I'd give it a shot. I mean, I live in a place which is blessed with beautiful natural landscapes, and so yeah, why not take advantage of this of what this place where I was born and grown has to offer. By the way, I want to go through some news. This is gonna sound strange, but here it goes. Many Ukrainians want Russia to invade. And the article goes on to say, for many in Ukraine, a full-scale Russian military invasion would feel like a liberation. On Saturday, across country's eastern and southern provinces, hundreds of people gathered to welcome the Kremlin's talk of protecting pro-Russian Ukrainians against the revolution. Revolution is, they refer here to the Maidan coup, against the revolution that brought a new government to power last week. So far, the protection has come in form of Russian military control of southern region of Crimea. But on Saturday, Russian President Vladimir Putin got a parliamentary approval for broad military intervention in Ukraine. As the news spread, locals in at least 4 major cities in the east of Ukraine climbed onto the roofs of government buildings and replaced the Ukrainian flag with the Russian tricolor. So yeah, I can leave the link to the article in the description of the video, but this was back in 2014. And many of you might wonder who bears this news, which newspaper outlet bears this news. No, it's not TASS. No, it's not RIA Novosti. It's no less than Time. So, pretty Western one, pretty unsuspectable or unsuspected one. So yeah, this is before the full-blown Western propaganda set in. This was the news. It was acknowledgement. There was acknowledgement in the West that problems were occurring in Ukraine, and not all is just the evil Russian against the poor, defenseless, and at the same time heroic Ukraine. So it was not black and white then. I'm not going to read the full article, like I said, but then it mentions several other interesting aspects. being one of them, mentioning the extreme right groups that were taking the streets in Ukraine and making things worse for people there and for Russian speaking communities. And he mentions the private sector, for example, being one of them. And so I just wanted to point this out, that for the people that today want to stick their head on the sand and pretend that this is just a morning ache that President Vladimir Putin had and invaded Ukraine, or is like the type of the Hitler type that has ambitions to conquer Europe like a World War II style or 19th century empire. This is just another proof that no one in the West believed that was so. No one in the West. And yeah, I needed to, I found this article very interesting, so I had to point that out here, as it is actually true that many Ukrainians, millions of Ukrainians, after the Maidan coup, actually the majority of the Ukrainians that fled Ukraine, they fled to Russia. And they were afraid. And it looks like the West makes it look like in Ukraine it's only one voice, only one will, only one people standing against the tyranny of the eastern neighbor. But if one studies history a little bit more, easily finds out that this is not the case. On the other side of the river, by the way, there is a town called Milfontes. And further there is where the river meets the sea. This is southwest coast of Portugal, and it's like summertime. It's not many people at the beach because tourist season has ended, but the weather, it's only a few persons, but the weather is still good. Anyway, continuing here, I wanted to point out also, to bring you news from TASS, because in my latest videos I was being critic of the alt media that normally points out the mistakes and the things that do not match in the hypocrisy in the Western narrative. So today I bring you a TASS, and today you are entitled to call me like a Russian propagandist, because I must go through all the news outlets, and so today I picked one from TASS. You know, when there is a quarrel between two parts, to be a good judge, you have to go throughout all the arguments in both parts. You might find the truth somewhere in between, or sometimes you might find the truth in one of the sides, or at least most of it. It depends on who actually is most responsible for provoking the actions. So this, let me see if I find it here. Okay, here it is. So this is from September 25th. And I read, the title is Ukraine to either surrender on Moscow's terms or cease to exist, top Russian lawmaker. So, and the article goes on by saying Ukraine is fated either to capitulate on Moscow's terms or cease to exist as a state. Vyacheslav Volodin, Speaker of the Russian State Duma, lower house of parliament, said. When speaking about the conflict in Ukraine, he goes on to say, this is quotes from his words, US President Joe Biden, NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg and other Western officials have started calling it a war of attrition. They have to put huge amounts of money into militarizing Kiev regime. Where has it gotten them? That's a good question, actually. I think the title, the first statement of the title, I do think it's a bit radical, but looking at the things as they are, it's also, it's sad, but it's realistic. I mean, and for what as far as I'm concerned, most of all the NATO meddling, all this interference, this color revolutions, this regime change done by the US in Ukraine, as how do I say it, has written its fate and has brought us to where we are now. The problem is that, as you can understand by these statements, both sides are not going anywhere. And like I said in my previous videos, I've maintained that word, that I don't think it is the end for Ukraine in as far as NATO aid, US aid goes. I think they can mess with it, they can play with it, they can replace its leader easily, they can change narratives, but hardly they will let go of the foothold that they have in Ukraine. On the other hand, while this goes on, Russia feels that has a threat, a serious one, serious threat, close to his border, close to Moscow, close to his capital, and must deal with it. This is not me saying, this is the Russian perspective. So, and the article goes on, he says, according to him, the outcome of the war of attrition also includes economic problems in Europe and US, a lack of manpower for the Ukrainian armed forces, and ultimately bankruptcy and the demographic disaster for Ukraine. This is another aspect that validates the point that the US doesn't really care about Ukraine. Because there is a demographic disaster in Ukraine. I was pointing out millions that left before 2022. Now we can point out hundreds of thousands that died or are maimed or are injured in some other form, and other millions that fled to European countries, but also to the Russian side of controlled territories. If one remembers images when the Kherson Frontline was being established, and it was still uncertain where it was going, there were images and videos of people, huge convoys of civilian cars heading to the Russian side from Ukraine. So yeah, there is, well, we have to clear this, and once and for all, is that Ukraine is not black and white. It's a complex country. It was a divided country before. I mean, the previous elections, and I mean the elections recognized as clean even by the West, the ones that elected for the last time Yanukovych, the president that was overthrown afterwards in the coup, they were clear. You could see by the vote where the Ukrainians standed. I mean, concerning the support for East Russian side or the Western side. He points out that Ukraine is having problems with manpower. The West is having problems in supplying weapons, which I think, in my opinion, if you want to hear, if you want to know, is, I think, yes, I think that might be one of the reasons that the West is slowing down on Ukrainian aid. It's because its industry hasn't picked up the pace. I don't know why. I think maybe they are still counting on Russian economic collapse. Maybe that's one possibility. Maybe they think that all these countries that are in NATO coalition together can provide enough. Or I don't know. Or maybe they think they can force Russia to a stalemate, or like it's being stated nowadays, a conflict freezing, through putting pressure on Russia through supplying long-range missiles, so Ukraine can threaten civilian centers and cause havoc behind the Russian border. This is one of the possibilities. But what you don't see in the industry, although all budgets have risen, all defense budgets have risen, Europe is spending more money in arms that hasn't spent since the end of the World War II and after the Cold War. Because remember, at the beginning of this conflict, Europe was mostly demilitarized. But this is also a business. It's also a business. It's Europe took the chance and sent all the junk. Also, the US did this. They sent all the junk they have in their warehouses. Let Ukraine fight with it. Let Ukraine waste it, along with the lives of the soldiers, so we can demand from defense companies new equipment for the armed forces. I think this is also part of the plan. Don't forget that this war is a big business. But still, I don't think Ukraine is going anywhere with the counteroffensive. People are still dying by the hundreds every day, and yeah, and this is also beginning to be admitted. I mean, the narrative, you can see the narrative changing. It's not just they won't let it go, but they start to admit that there are difficulties. And for example, there is an article on the BBC. It's one of those articles, propaganda articles, but it sheds some light of what's going on, of what is the environment in the Ukrainian army. It tells the story of a soldier. It tells things like, although he's only a soldier, he is responsible for 120 men, which is about a company size. It tells how the Ukrainians only have 10 days of leave in one whole year. It tells about all the people that have died in his unit, in his battalion. It tells that the morale is not that good. It doesn't say that people are panicking or want to run away or nothing like that. Of course, the BBC would never put a piece like that out there. But it describes the life of this one soldier. He's been alive since 2014, so another admission of the conflict since then. But then he goes on to say that his unit is like unrecognizable. He also says that, for example, volunteer units can leave, but conscripts cannot leave, even if they want it. So, And we know Ukraine has been burning through their best men. Of course, I suspect that they stopped burning through their most fanatical troops. I think they keep them in the rear guard to other purposes and tasks, some of them very nefarious. We've heard about these stories. But yeah, there is admission. I will send, I don't want to read the whole article about this Ukrainian soldier, but it pictures a very hard life on the front lines. And they do admit heavy casualties. They do admit poor rotation. They do admit that they are not making progress in the counteroffensive. So now I ask, is this worth it? Is this worth it? All of this could have been avoided very easily. But the lobbies are too strong. Anyways, enough of me rambling about this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, please go and subscribe. Please. Please. I have not much ambition as a YouTuber, but I do feel compelled to do these videos. Anyway, see you on the next one. Bye bye.